This is an extremely brutal homicide case. The killer forced the man's wife and children into chairs, stuffed their mouths with human flesh and feces from the man. Before death, the man was seasoned with salt and pepper, then stuffed into his own mouth. For 2 hours his cheeks reddened, charred outside yet tender inside, shrinking like ham slices. His heart and kidneys were served as side dishes on the dining table. I witnessed this horrific scene of the woman and children at the table. After police received this gruesome case report, they immediately rushed to the crime scene. The female officer felt physically ill at the sight. Suddenly, an alarm clock in the room went off. The officer then noticed a pot nearby, seemingly boiling soup. Upon closer inspection, she found the family's youngest baby inside. This was the most brutal case in her decades-long career. Oddly, no blood was cleaned, no DNA traces left, just a sticky black liquid puddle. The family was close-knit with no known enemies, but clearly someone harbored intense hatred. The officer believed the killer was experienced, possibly having committed similar crimes before. However, in the police records, there were no similar cases documented. The investigation trail went cold. Yesterday, a nun claiming to be a reporter came by. She came specifically for this case. The officer, cold towards the traffic-seeking nun, reluctantly accepted her out of respect for the church. The nun stated she was actively tracking evil incidents. She learned of this case through a pastor friend, and rushed over immediately. Seeing the nun's eager eyes, the officer recounted the case details. The wife and 2 kids allegedly died of heart failure, but clearly suffered immense trauma. It wasn't until 3 a.m. that neighbors called the police, unable to sleep due to loud Mozart from the victim's home. The nun, however, guessed it was a requiem. The nun's accurate guess made the officer uneasy. As she reached for her gun, the nun offered a convincing explanation. The nun reasoned that playing a requiem was logical, as Mozart died by stabbing. The officer had a hunch but couldn't explain it, wondering if they should consider supernatural angles. So the officer mentioned the strange liquid found at the scene. Based on the officer's description, the nun deduced it might be the smell of burned hair, similar to cooked egg whites. The nun hadn't seen it herself, so the exact nature would need lab analysis to confirm. Unexpectedly, the nun soon uncovered a second crime scene. Inside, they found a burst toilet, suggesting the homeowner wasn't a tidy person. When the curtains were opened, they saw several corpses pinned to the wall. One victim was cut with a blue blade, while 2 others were bisected. Despite the brutal method, no blood was left at the scene. The victims appeared drained of blood. A message on the wall read, "I was abandoned." Time couldn't reveal the killer's hint. Only black liquid remained at the crime scene. The nun had accompanied the police, surprising other officers. The female officer had left with the nun but quickly returned to the scene. The officer had thought the nun might offer some insights. After being told not to touch evidence, she suggested bringing the nun along. What the officer didn't expect was this place had been targeted by someone mysterious. Just as the officer returned home, she heard strange noises around her. Cautiously, she peered through the wall, following the sound to the kitchen. There she found a requiem playing on the radio, clearly a sign of ill intent. Opening the curtains, she saw a figure moving nearby. She fired her gun but missed, the distance too great. Her daughter, under supervision, thought her mother was drunk, unaware of the close brush with danger. When the nun met the officer again to discuss the case, the liquid analysis was ready. Learning it was concentrated sulfur dioxide, the nun excitedly referenced the apocalypse. "300,000 killed by 3 disasters, fire, smoke, and stones overflowing from their mouths. The song Religion is very soothing." Fantastic, a religious psychopath.